Because we're about to start what we're calling the campaign for UDC 2, because it's the budget time down at the Wilson Building. And you remember last year we started the campaign for UDC 1, which was very, very effective. We went to community groups, we went to the Chamber of Commerce, we went to the Federal City Council, we went to ANCs, and we got them all to help the mayor do what in her heart she really wanted to do, which was find a way to enhance the support from the district for the university. And so we're going to explain to you the results of that work last year. It wasn't what we wanted, but it was certainly progress. And then talk to you about what we're trying to get this year in the campaign for UDC 2. The hashtag, by the way, is going to be hashtag UDC First Choice, because in her inaugural address, the mayor announced that she wanted the business community in UDC to join her in turning the University of the District of Columbia into a university of first choice for the best and the brightest in the district at both the 2-year and 4-year level. So we took her words and we put it into a hashtag. What I'd also like to do before that, though, is kind of just make sure we're all remembering what the equity imperative is all about. This is our strategic plan for the university. While we were doing the campaign for UDC, we were also on a district-wide basis collecting information that we used to develop the plan. The plan was approved by the board in June. Every cabinet member owns a part of that plan, and every person under every cabinet member owns a part of that plan. Because the idea is that we want to do something that's never been done before, really, as an institution and as a model for the nation in the nation's capital. We want to show that it is possible to identify raw talent, especially in poor Black and brown communities, extract it, refine it, and turn it into high quality product for the workforce on a mass production basis. America doesn't know how to do that. That's another speech I can give about the reasons that America doesn't know how to produce that type of talent. But we want to be specialists in doing that. And the equity imperative is really about how we're going to reboot, regenerate, and rebuild and build upon what UDC is in order to be able to get that work done. Okay? And so we're going to walk through this pretty quickly, and then I'm going to open up the floor for questions. And bear with me, please. I don't get sick often, but I think I'm getting the head cold. And I took some Alka-Seltzer this morning, which I never do, so I'm a little fuzzy up here. So if I stray or wander or start to babble or drool, just bring it to my attention, okay? So here we go. The mayor said, she calls on us in the business community to build UDC as the institution of first choice for the best and the brightest in the district, which means the mayor's really come a long way. If you remember where we started out 3.5 years ago, we were really fighting just to make sure our budget wouldn't get cut. But we seem to have, flipped the script, much to the surprise of many people. But I think we're starting to turn the corner now, and this is a big deal for her to claim us as the institution for the future of the district. Next slide. The whole idea was that there's a great challenge on the equity side of the house in the district. The district wants to be sustainable, resilient, and equitable. They sort of have the two first pieces right, but the equity part is a challenge. The issues with affordable housing, affordable in quotation marks, the homeless, what's happening in the public school system. But the net result of all of that, and this is a national reality, if the median household, if you're white, is $134,000, if you're Black, it's $42,000. Salaries, average is $75,000, and the high school degree is $30,000, And then residents with college degrees in the districts, 92% of the white residents have college degrees, and only 25% of the blacks. So you can see we have our work cut out for us. Next slide. And these are the students that we work with. 65% of them are DC residents, 60% African American, which is actually on the low side for an HBCU. 10% are Latino. This number here is actually higher. Dwight and I have been going back and forth. Where's Dwight? What number did we settle on, Dwight? 46. 46% economically disadvantaged, which is actually low for most HBCUs as well. But of course, 100% of our workforce development students, which is one of the 3 doors into UDC, 100% of those are DC residents because it's free to DC residents. Next slide. And the big punchline is this, you know, the national average for state local fund investment in public higher education is about 5.8% of that budget. For us, it's 1.1%. And even when the equity imperative is fully funded, that's still going to only be about 1.78%, which means that we're a real bargain for the work that we do. You know, we wanted to do hashtag 1.78% on our shirts, but apparently they can't make shirts with percentage signs or something like that. And so we ended up where we ended up with, but that would have been kind of cool, I think. Okay, next slide. Reiterate, you know the vision, you know the mission, you know the motto, but the big point is that our vision is that everyone that walks through our doors will achieve their highest level of human potential. And we chose those words very specifically because human potential is different from professional potential, athletic potential, work potential. We're talking about the whole human being, mind, body, and spirit, right? Understanding, though, that changes over time. And so we're building the kind of institution that you can get on, get off if that's your highest level of potential at the time. And then when you realize that you have another step to go up on, you can get back on as if you never left, right? Which has a lot of implications. It means, for one thing, that, you know, rankings like U.S. News and World Report really are not going to work for us. Because that's not the model. You know, they really rank you based on how wealthy you are as an institution and how wealthy your alumni are. That's not who we want to be. We want to serve anybody that walks in our doors, and we want to get them where they can go, when they can go there, and be available for them when they come back. Next slide. The big goals: establish UDC as a public university model of urban student success. The point there is the urban student success part. We're claiming the urban space because in the next 30 years, 80% of the world is going to be urban. And they're going to have all sorts of issues about space, about food, about education, and we want to get into those issues because that's where the action is as far as America's talent is concerned. But we don't know how to identify the talent. We don't know how to refine it. Goal 2 is we just have to produce more numbers of the talent that we serve. And then goal 3 is transformative leaders. You know, the idea being that, let me see if I can explain it this way. So, strengths. You all know we're working with strengths, right? And so strengths was actually developed to identify initially CEOs, you know, people that had certain strengths to be great CEOs, right? And I was over at a session at Gallup where they were talking about the issues with the healthcare system. And they called in these geniuses to think about the solution to the rising healthcare costs. And one of these geniuses said that, well, the only way we're going to solve the healthcare problem is to accept the fact that more people have to die, right? And now, you know, in some people's minds, that is the type of leader that gives you a hard assessment and a cold analysis, right? But it's also the type of leaders that destroy the environment, and pay women less, you follow me? And so while the reaction of many of the CEOs in the room was, yeah, I understand that, my reaction was, well, you need to go find you a different kind of genius. Because there are other answers to those kinds of problems, and to settle on one like that is not what I would call a transformative leader. I thought that was a good line at the time, by the way. You need to find a better genius. Okay, so next slide. I'm going to go through these quickly. We have the big goal, model of urban student success. Sub-goal 1, demonstrate and advocate the value of public higher education. Enhance our relationships with government. It doesn't make sense to be in the nation's capital and not do work with the city government and not do work with the federal agencies. So we have a new vice president for research over here that's going to help us enhance work in both of those areas. Strategic marketing. We have a great story. Nobody knows it. And so you're going to see us start to tell our story more and more. Dual enrollment programs. We're the largest dual enroller with DC Public Schools at the community college, and we just started the first class up here. We also think this summer we're going to be the house of the leadership program for the district high school students, where we'll have 100 on campus, and they'll all be dual enrollment students as well. This C16 Academy down here is something that I want you to keep your eye on, because we need to rethink how this pipeline of education works for the students that we serve. If you think about it, the American education system is really only designed to work for the top 10% of the population, right? But the students that we serve, starting in the communities, the ecosystem that they come from, have different needs, different requirements, come up with us with different challenges that American education really does not know how to work to do. And so we're working on a proposal now to get some money to redesign on a pilot basis public education in America. And we're identifying one neighborhood with an elementary, middle, and high school that's going to connect directly to UDC, so that we can start working with the community and then work those students through a process that's specifically designed to educate them. And if we can do it on a pilot basis, then we think that maybe the nation will understand that that's the way you produce talent, where most of the talent is. Next slide. Workforce calibrated degrees, you know about that. Seamless pathways. By the time we're done, every course at the community college will articulate directly into the bachelor's programs. This 360 assessment, the thought there being that standardized tests really only measure how wealthy you are and what neighborhood you come from and how much money your folks have to support your programs to help you pass those tests. But we're looking at other ways to identify raw talent. That's why you see us looking at the BP10 assessment, for example. You know about the Capital Builders Program. Does everybody know about that? So we assessed the 300 students, found the best 10 that had entrepreneurial talent. But it's also the 10 that had the highest level of grit, stick-to-itiveness, show up. They didn't do real well on the other standardized tests. But these young people, because they have that grit, all ended up making A's and B's this past semester, even though they weren't predicted to do so. And so we think there's something here about this tool being able to identify raw talent that we can put into an education system to allow them to thrive. Spaces, about 4250, right? We have the building, we're going to turn it into a modern learning facility as soon as we get the money from the district this year to buy it, which I think will happen. Am I dragging you out? No. Okay, let's roll then, because I'm dozing on myself. Enhanced teaching and learning. You know about multicultural engagement, the new center opening up on Founders Day. Experiential learning. If you're a land grant, you got to get involved on a hands-on basis. Strengths Finder, you know about that. We're going to become a strengths campus. The main reason being that, you know, the students we work with, people are always telling them what's wrong with them, what their deficits are, right? What problems they have, but they also have strengths, and most of them don't know they have strengths. And so we're going to flip the script on that and start to focus on the strengths and build on the strengths as opposed to trying to shore up the weaknesses. First year seminar, we're going to fold it into that whole process. And then the general studies capstone. You all know that that's tied directly to the needs of the district, which is a good thing. But we also have some kinks we have to work out, like what's happening from the community college up here and the business school and those sorts of things. But we'll get through that with our new chief academic officer. Where is he? You all know Dr. Lawrence Potter started Friday afternoon, yes. And so he's fully up to speed already. Next one. And so here's how the money looks, and I'm going to talk a little bit about one specific piece of this, which is what's going on with faculty compensation. But here's what we asked for in the first year of the strategic plan, or for the whole strategic plan. We asked for $20.7 million in salary money for market-based compensation. That is to bring everybody up to market. We asked, and of that, 10.5 million was for staff and 10.2 for faculty. And then we asked for some one-time money to put together an early retirement program to see if people that have been working here for a long time might want to retire. And then on the non-personnel side, we asked for money for training and development to get our skills up to par. Land grant monies, because that's matched by the federal government. And then workforce, what's Troy? What was that? Oh, that's the workforce program. Yeah, because we actually subsidize it to the tune of about $2 million a year or so. And we were doing it on federal money, but the federal money went away. And then this is IT, and you know the challenges we have with IT, right? And so what we actually got, let's go to the next slide. So we asked for $16.2 million in total. This is on the operating side, and we ended up with 9.5, right? Now in that 16.2, we asked for 14.2 in recurring. That is a base increase in our budget that would stay there, but we only got 4.8 million. And then we asked for 2.6 in one time, and they gave us 4.7 in one time. Now, one time means we can spend it one time. And so we can't put it in salaries and things like that, because once you put that in the budget, it keeps coming back, right? And so what we did with the money we actually got, the 4.8 million, what we did was we took 4.7 and we put it into the offer we made to the faculty in the union negotiations. And you all got the letter we sent out right before Christmas explaining how we broke all of that up, right? And I can't, I'm not here to talk about it, but I can answer questions. I have my human resources person here to stop me if I go astray. But this is something that, you know, we put the best we could into the package, and from everybody I've talked to, it's a pretty good package, and we can't seem to untrack it in the negotiation process. And now, the point of this, though, is that a couple of things. One, the money's there. It's there for a cash payment. It's there for a raise pool. It's there for a performance-based pool. We were able to put in 2 tracks for the people that are significantly off of market, which is basically business and engineering, and then another track. But we also did a national survey of what average salaries were, median salaries, and moved the whole scale up to median. And then we figured out what the premium was for the District of Columbia. So we took the Coupa average and added another 8%. And so moved everybody up on that. And then anybody that wasn't in the range, after we did all of that, we put them in the range, okay? And then there's 3% cost of living increase next year and 3% the year after that. And so you put all of that together, that was a deal we put on the table. And we're sticking to it as long as we can. But at some point, the process is you go to impasse, and if it goes to impasse, then it's in the basically court system. And last time that happened, I think it sat there about 3 years, maybe 4 years, right? So I don't know how y'all deal with that, but that's the situation. And then the other thing is that, that money is there, but there's all kinds of pressures for that money as well. Like the ASME union, and you work here, so you know how many people are trying to draw on that money. So we want to get it out, we want to get it in people's pockets. And I'll answer any questions you have in that regard. The last thing is this, you can contact talent management if you want to know how this package will affect you individually. Email them and they'll let you know what you will look like at the end of the day if the union accepts this package, okay? And so, what's next? And this is on the capital side. We asked for 724. We got 147 as a start, but remember that's a 6-year allocation, and every year they can add more to it. We're thinking this year they'll add enough for us we're hoping to buy 4250, in which case we can start doing the renovations on that, and also to finish the planning for Bacchus so we can expand that. And next slide. And this is the numbers we've committed to if we get the resources that we ask for to implement the plan. And if the resources are not provided in the way that we ask for them, then we'll have to adjust the plan on an annual basis. And you know that the plan is broken down. The Office of Planning and Institutional Effectiveness tracks it. We report to the board on the progress every quarter. And then at the end of the year, we're held accountable for whether we did what we said we were going to do. We're behind, generally speaking, on the academic side because we didn't have Dr. Potter here, but he's been here now 2 days and he's fully up to speed, so we'll be catching up pretty quickly, okay? Next slide. And this is what the district would look like if we were able to bring equity into the process and enable everybody to walk on a completed pathway to the middle class. Okay, so questions?
Just gonna park one mic over here.
Thank you, Mr. President, for your speech. I would like you to elaborate a little bit more on Goal 1, Sub-Goal 2. Goal 1, Sub-Goal 2, partnering with DC public schools. Specifically, what investment has the administration made in that line to make us professors to understand exactly what the expectation is from the professors? We would like to be involved.
Sure.
Okay, so partnering, give us direction. More in the strategic plan, elaborate more on partnering with this public institution.
Sure. So that will be a process of figuring it out with the DC public school system. Part of what we've agreed to and they've agreed to is that we will have regular meetings to jointly plan the relationship between UDC and DC public schools. Some of the things that I know are going to be top on the list, for example, is teacher production, because there's a real issue with teacher availability in the district. That's a topic that's already come up. The C16 pilot program is something that we've already started talking about. But at the end of the day, we'll have a work group from DC Public Schools and a work group from UDC to sit down and think through the long-term relationship that we want to build. On the theory that it really is, in the District of Columbia, one public school system, and we're at the pinnacle of it, and we know exactly what's going on in the K-12 part of it because we end up with all of those students. And the more we can work together and the further we can look together down the pipeline, the better at the end of the day the students will be by the time they get to us. So it's an evolving process that we're committing to start. Does that answer your question? Okay, good. Dr. Turpin?
Good afternoon, President Mason. I noted I don't know about sub-goals, I can't really list them, but I can at least tell you what I did see. And that was on multicultural engagement, experiential learning, enhanced teaching and learning. And so I do have a couple of questions about that. What is UDC prepared to do? As we say, we want UDC to be first choice. As someone who completed their PhD at a Research One institution and their master's at a Research One institution, first choice for Vermont, first choice for Connecticut, first choice for Massachusetts, and first choice for Ohio, where I'm from, means that all schools are strong with regard to teaching, with regard to learning, with regard to research. So I've noticed that over recent years, we've really strengthened our business programs, we've really strengthened our engineering programs. What exactly does UDC plan to do to make this institution first choice with regard to humanities? The second question is, if we're going to do multicultural engagement, how will we do that beyond opening a multicultural center? At most institutions that I just named, you not only had multicultural centers, you had multicultural programs. In other words, courses. We do not have women's studies, and we're here in Black History Month, and we don't have a university-wide Black History Month. Thank you.
Sure, no, I have a mic, thanks. So on the first one, we are a work in progress. And I'll recount the history of how we got where we are, right? And you mentioned two schools where we're seeing progress. And you're right, but I could also mention CAS, where we've seen many more new faculty be hired, where we've seen an increase in research interest and activity, where I think that, nothing's going to be perfect, but there seems to be a lot of thinking going on in CAS about who they are, what they are, and what they're going to do with humanities at UDC. And I can say the same thing about causes, and I can say the same thing about the community college. I think compared to where we were 3 years ago, every one of our units, academic units, continues to make progress every day, including CAS. Now, CAS is the biggest with the community college, so it's going to be harder to get that train moving, but it's moving. Okay. So there's that. The second piece is multiculturalism. You're right. When they did 1-2 program elimination processes, the second one mandated by the council in order to downsize the budget, we lost a lot of programs, including, for example, history. Thank you, Dr. Celeste. I mean, we just opened up an Institute for Policy, Politics, and History, and we don't have a history major, which, it's something nobody noticed, but it piqued my interest when we announced it, right? But if you remember, in the equity imperative, the first job of the chief academic officer is to sit down and think through who we want to be academically. You know, not only what do we do, but what do we want to do? Not only what do we want to do, but what do we have to do? You know, because it's a combination of what is the market, what is the workforce need, and what sort of academic inventory do we have to have available in order to create transformative leaders. And so I think it's going to be an exciting process to engage and figure all of these things out. But as you know, that's not so much the president's job. I have an idea of who we are and where we are and where we want to go. But at the end of the day, that's the faculty's brains at work.
That's why I said UDC.
As it should be, yes, as it should be. And I can't wait to sit in on some of those meetings and see where we end up. Because I think it's going to be a special, exciting process. Next question. Yes.
I had a question about student tuition. So since we're trying to create this model where we're all inclusive of different types of learners, non-traditional learners, people that are coming to school part-time, is there anything that we can do in terms of our tuition structure to help part-time students afford college? Because I know that a lot of the students on the first list may be students that are part-time. So the current model, if you're over 12 credits, you essentially aren't paying any additional money. So if you're a part-time student, you're paying more for your degree than full-time students are. Is there anything that we can do to help to retain those part-time students?
The answer is yes. You know, if I was going to just give you an answer, whether we're in a position to do that right now is a different question. I'll share a story with you that I shared with the cabinet this morning. I'm going to try to make it brief with them. I was at a dinner last night, right? And it was with a wealthy DC guy who invited all the leaders in higher education. The guest of honor was the president of Purdue University. And I was sitting at a table with Secretary of Education DeVos and Tony Williams, and the head of the Case Foundation was there, and Steve Case was there, and the head of ACE was there, right? And so they're singing the praises of this guy from Purdue because he's doing all these amazing things in theory in higher education. And he's also making higher education more affordable. And so I'm listening to this guy talk, and there's nothing he's doing that we haven't already thought of doing, right? And then the host asked, well, what is your tuition? And he said, our tuition is $9,000 a year. And this was being celebrated as an affordable tuition. Now our tuition in state is $7,000 a year. At the community college, it's $3,500 a year. And the workforce program is free. Half of the community college program students don't pay anything at all because Pell Grant covers the cost, right? And up here, while we don't have need-based support for part-time students, overall, I think we do a pretty good job on affordability. And I think part-time students are Pell eligible as well. And so if there's a real need there, there's federal assistance to do that. Now, at the end of the day, do we have enough money? No. Do we end up having to hold students accountable because they owe us money and they haven't paid it? Yes. But come Founders Day, right, you know, we're going to give an award to a student for doing community service, even though the student earned the award last semester, and this semester he has to sit out because he has to go work to pay off his balance so he can get back in school. And at this point in our status as an institution, we just have to accept the fact that that's part of our model, right? And so when I talked about on and off ramps, you know, some of our students are going to have to stop and go back to work to get enough money to come back to school until we can raise enough money so that they won't have to stop to do that. Does that answer your question, Professor Clark? You don't like the answer, but it answered it, right? Okay. Next question. Anybody? Sorry? Yes, ma'am.
The nursing program, where are we with that?
Whew. So we're in a good place overall. On the smaller question, which is whether the associate's program will be reaccredited. It looks like it's on track for that to happen. But the bigger question about nursing in the district, about whether RN to BSN is a viable model, about whether we need a general BSN that feeds directly from the associate's program up here, whether it should be one program. All of these are still open questions right now. And, we've started meeting with the health people from the district. We'll soon have a meeting with the people that run the hospitals. Dr. Summers has been meeting with Dr. O'Hara, about the inter-campus questions. But if your question was about the re-accreditation, I think that's a yes, and that will happen. But it's only one question in a whole lot of questions. Anybody else? It's not even Monday, and y'all are kind of, yes.
I have one.
Yes, ma'am, over here.
I saw a flash on a slide, a greater presence east of the river, and I know this is in preliminary development, but can you just touch on how do you plan to make an impact in these communities where families, there's a great need in these communities, so before you deal with the individual, you're gonna deal with their needs first. How is UDC gonna bridge that opportunity?
Yes, so we have been traveling around Ward 7 and Ward 8 to better understand who they are and what those needs are, right? The C16 pipeline that we're talking about building will be in one of those two wards, probably Ward 8, probably 8. But 7 got challenges too, right? And 8 gets a lot more attention for a lot of different reasons, right? But the process we want to engage in, and the proposal we're working on, we'll take a year to plan this C16, I'm calling it the Equity Academy. But while we're planning the Equity Academy, we will be working with the community around it in order to not only understand it, but also to organize it and help rebuild the ecosystem there so that the students, so that the ecosystem becomes part of the learning process, a positive force in that student's learning path. And is it easy work? No. Is it going to be hard work? Yes. But it's the work we have to take on. And so we're kind of figuring it out now. It's not, I've done that kind of work before, so I know what's involved. But it's the work that we've been called to do. And so we're working our way through it. Yes, please.
I live and I am from Ward 8, and I believe that the strengths perspective that we're in that initiative will really be phenomenal for that. And I would also like to be a part of the process.
Sure. And let me mention one other thing, which we found with this BP10 assessment, right? I think the lowest number of students we have from any ward is Ward 8, right? But when we did this BP10 assessment, of the 10, that 3 of them are from Ward 8. And they're doing very well academically, which shows us that, they talk about, what's the word they use? I'm having an Alka-Seltzer moment. No, not grit, but the point is that they talk about students succeeding at the highest levels because they go to Harvard and so on and so forth, right? But in a lot of ways, students who get out of high school in Ward 8, with the challenges that they have over generations, I count that as a higher level of success, than somebody that has every advantage and ends up being able to go to Harvard, right? And so we know the raw talent is there. The question is, how do you find it and how do you develop it? Allow it to blossom. Yes, sir.
President Mason.
Yes, ma'am.
One thing that concerns me is the number of students that we have here. is there a schedule from the recruiting office in terms of when students come to visit, or if we are asking them to come here for various programs? I'm very concerned about the enrollment, not only in my classes, but in observing other classes. It just doesn't seem to me to be going up the way I would like for it to go up, or to stay at a certain level. So is there something else that maybe we as faculty can do to help with the recruiting process to get students to come?
Yes. So I'd say on enrollment, we're more or less holding serve. But we're seeing a transition from to more first-time, full-time students. So those numbers are going up, which in the long run, I think, trends well for us on an FTE basis, right? And if you've ever been down to 801, to the community college, you know, those students are sitting in the halls. It's so crowded, right? And so part of the challenge is that we split the campus and half the students are there and half the students are here now. You know, we make lemonade out of lemons by bragging about having a small student to faculty ratio, which is good, right? But if you ask me what our first challenge is on enrollment, it's not so much recruiting, because I think Dwight has done a good job of putting together a good plan, and we'll be sharing it, including recruiting outside of the district. Our real problem is retention, because we lose a lot. We lose more students than we bring in every year, and that's because of several things that are going on once we get them here. Some is life challenges, but some of it is what they say they're experiencing in the classroom, which is something that, you know, you're going to see us focusing on more and more and more. Because look, your best recruiters are the students that talk to other students. You know, that come to us from a high school and then go back and tell those kids in the high school what it's like to be here. And so Dwight's put together a pretty comprehensive plan. It's had one review. It'll have another one. It'll be circulated to the deans for sure, and then they can share it with whoever they want to. Then we're going to lock it down and we're going to execute. Okay? Yes, sir? First. Oh, we're going to close with a video as soon as y'all stop asking questions. 30-second video. Going once. Going twice. Yes, ma'am.
What are we gonna do about building 41? It's raining in the garage. You've got some kind of weird thing on the B level because there's no lights. And it's raining in the hallways when you go downstairs.
We're closing it down as we speak. Building 41 will be empty. Troy, we're going to start moving people in April. I don't know where Troy went. Probably out packing boxes or something. But we're going to start moving people in April into 4250. And that building is coming down.
Can you do something about the homeless people in front?
Well, you know, that's an interesting question. I've actually stopped and talked to some of those folks, and they all have sort of different stories. So I invited the newspaper folks.
City papers?
No, the Street Sense. Yeah, they're coming to talk to me so we can kind of better understand what's going on there. Because part of the problem is that the building is empty, but the bigger problem is that, you know, we have a homelessness issue in the district. Going once again. It's your last chance. Going twice. So everybody gets it. You got the equity imperative. I could call on people making funny faces, but I won't do it. And like some on their mind, but they don't want to put it out there. You understand we're in the campaign for UDC 2. You have another question? Go ahead.
Yeah. Since we're talking about conditions of building. I'm quite sure facilities is tired of hearing me, put in tickets. But building 39 is hot, extremely hot. 90 degrees yesterday, we had to close the office financial aid. 92 degrees in my office. in my office, and the suite itself was 86.
You mean the building I'm in?
Yeah,
Yes.
but when I go there, it's cold. You go downstairs, it's hot.
Yeah, so my heat regulator is the sun. If the sun is out, I'm pretty good. If it's not out, I've got a problem. But you know the issue there, building 39 is the one furthest away from the boilers. And once they set the system for winter, if the weather changes to be more summer-like, there's no way to turn it off and turn it on to air conditioning, right? And so you put all of that together, that's why we asked for money to fix these buildings. And so it's not gonna, 39 is not first on the list, but at some point we'll empty out 39 and just gut the whole doggone thing and put in new pipes and new wires, but it's not gonna happen tomorrow. Now, they do have those portable air conditioner things. Troy's not here, but you might, is Eric's here. Check with Eric, he might be able to hook you up with one of those. Okay, good. All right. Going once again. Going twice. Thank you all for your patience. Thank you very much, and we'd like to close with a short video.
UDC, the business community, and the leaders on the stage to affirm a path to UDC's ascendance as a first-choice 2-year and 4-year institution for DC's best and brightest.
Before you go, one last thing. You know, the mayor's going to have her budget hearings around the district. And if you want to get engaged, you should talk to Lee back here, Lee Reba. And the way it works is that she comes in with a pie, and she uses this process to decide how to divide up the pie. And there are different tables that you sit at, and if you can convince your table that a big chunk of the pie should go to higher education, then that goes up to the front, and the more tables that say a chunk of the pie should go to higher education, the bigger the chunk of the pie we get. And so, you know, you should, if you can, you should want to. This is all about, you know, a better UDC. Find out when those hearings are, go to the hearings, sit at the table, advocate for a bigger chunk of the pie for higher education, and at the end of the day, that'll end up being a bigger chunk of the budget for UDC, okay? So let Lee know if you're interested, and we'll probably send out some communication, giving you times, dates, and so forth, okay? Team UDC, y'all. Thank you very much.